Do that. 3 and 2. Oh, we're recording. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, well, welcome everybody. This is Dr. Alexina here, and I'm honored to welcome you to this session with Dr. Tanya Gee. And Dr. Tanya Gee is a very good friend of mine, colleague, sister, and long lost friend, life partner, you could say.
Well, I do call you my life partner because, you know, sisterhood stay together forever, you know?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
except for your marriage will last forever too. So I'll just,
of course.
It'll last forever.
And she is here to bring us into the art of healing. And she's going to be sharing storytelling and how therapeutic storytelling can be for all of us on a healing journey. And she's got a very extensive bio. Feel free to peruse that and learn about her. She's a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine based in Vancouver, Canada. I think you've been in practice for, is it 25 years or
26 years?
26 years. And you're,
yeah, and I'm only 28, so go figure.
Yeah,
that happened.
You're radiant as ever, and you're, oh, and so is your cat.
Oh, sorry, yes, I am at home. That is my small little puma. Yeah,
there you go. And she is, I would describe her as the cheerful, compassionate, funny girl. That's
the Care Bear.
Yes,
the cheer Care Bear.
She really is, and we're always so happy that she's with us. She's a blessing for all of those who know her. She's a tremendous blessing in their life, and I really hope that you will enjoy this session with her as she brings us into awareness on the art of storytelling. So, Dr. Tanya, take it away.
Thank you, Alexina. Let's. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to be part of your esteemed speaker panel, and amazing organization that you've done on this. So thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. And I just want to say that it is true, Alexina and I have known each other for a very long time, and our friendship has blossomed, and we have moved through so many perceived and unperceived obstacles, and we keep becoming stronger and stronger. And when I was in my early 30s, one of the greatest spiritual lessons I ever got was all women are your sisters, and we are stronger when we support each other rather than beat each other down. And so, Alexina, you and I have always had each other's back. So Thank you for your sisterhood.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so thank you, everyone. We have 19, 20 people on. Thank you so much for showing up and spending 45 minutes with me. My intention for this sharing is, it's called the Ancient and Sacred Art of Storytelling and Healing. And my personal wisdom is that there comes a time in your life when you have to reflect on what is your legacy. What do you stand for? What's your personal wisdom? How do you live it? How do you live it in the way that you think, in the way that you speak, in the way that you act? And in my spiritual path, this becomes a reflection, a life reflection for me. And I do my very best to walk the talk. So when I started talking with Alexina, and she said, what do you want to talk about? And I said, well, when I think about what my legacy is, it's really about sharing love and supporting others to step into their power of love through storytelling. Now, in my personal practice, every hour of my day, I am storytelling. And there's some wisdom behind this. You see, when we're working with someone who is stuck in a place of suffering, they don't necessarily want someone to say, well, you should really do this. And what people really want is to be heard, to be acknowledged in where they're at, and then gently, ever so gently, offer a possible change in perception, so that they can make their own personal little shift within. And sometimes it's just that little shift that can create a brand new opening, in order to make changes. And so when a person has this opportunity to change, then wow, the healing can just be so profound. So a minor perception can change such a profound perceived obstacle and create better healing, more profound healing. So that was the intention. I called it the ancient and sacred art of storytelling because when we reflect on what ancient means, it's old, right? Well, traditional Chinese medicine is old, it's thousands of years old. Ayurvedic medicine is old. Humanity is old. And before we could actually write and record our teachings, it was all oral tradition. So every indigenous community that is rich with their medicine, with their earthly and spiritual wisdom, it was oral tradition. And that was always in a form of storytelling. So storytelling, it does something to the brain. You know, it accesses some that the creative aspect of the brain. When I was going through school for TCM, I made up stories around what the herbs could do, and I gave all the herbs a personality. And this is how I could remember what the herbs did. And as the herbs merged with other herbs, it created a community, and this community did something together. So for me, it wasn't about facts. I couldn't remember facts, but I could remember the story. When I have clients come in to see me, it's the same thing. I may not remember your name, but I'll remember your face because I'm visual. But more profoundly, I remember your story. I remember the child that you lost at the age of 3. I remember the betrayal you felt in your marriage. I remember that you broke your leg. And while you broke your leg and convalesced in the hospital, you changed your entire life and you changed your philosophy. Those are things I remember. And so when we think about that, we think about everyone has a story to tell. And when, again, we find inspiration in what is our legacy, then we can come out with our own personal stories to uplift and inspire people, but coming from a really authentic place in the heart. Some stories are very sensationalized. Some stories are told for other purposes, just to make people laugh or to drive a not so loving point. Those stories I'm not interested in. The stories I'm interested are the ones that uplift, the ones that give hope, the ones where it's like Joseph Campbell, who wrote about the hero's journey. I like stories that say, we have this, there was a perceived obstacle, they made it through, and they triumphed. Because I believe in the triumph of the human spirit. I believe in the wisdom of the heart. And I believe that each and every one of us can access that and know more about who you are. Sorry, tea break. Every time I have a lecture or I share, I always throw in this trippy little question. And the question is this: who is looking through your eyes? Is that not trippy? When I was 19, I attended, I can't even remember the name of the self-help weekend. I've been to so many. And the facilitator on the stage just threw that question out. It was, who is looking through your eyes? And that tripped me out all day. I started to think like, yeah, like, what is this intelligence that is inhabiting my physical body, our beautiful temple, and looking through our eyes, and what is the purpose? Thus became the beginning of one of the most profound spiritual paths that I have taken. And it really is about know thyself. Who are we? Why are we here? By the way, if you can hear any noise, that would be my cat playing with his toys. So I apologize for that. Okay. So thank you for listening so far. Let's move on to the next aspect of this chit chat we're on. So the ancient art, the ancient and sacred art of storytelling. Ancient because it's old, sacred because it is your personal wisdom. And how does it heal? We're really looking for a perception shift in yourself and in others so that they can grasp more of the love that's in themselves, be uplifted and inspired. There are two things that that keep shaping my day-to-day existence. I have a beloved teacher that I've been following for 14 years, and he's actually one of the presenters in the Infinite Gathering. His name is Juan Rees Napri, and this man is so humble and so authentic. I love him very dearly. He is my brother and my friend. And one of the things that he taught me 14 years ago is to define there are two paths in life: the path of love and the path of suffering. And suffering is the ego. And so to live life consciously, we can take a moment, take a breather. And if we're in a state of chaos, or if we're in a fantastic state of love and bliss, we ask ourselves, ground yourself in the present moment and ask, what path am I on? And there's only two. So it's quite simple. It's the path of suffering, which is ego, or the path of love. When we find ourselves in difficult situations, this is a very good tool to use to keep yourself in your heart and walking ever so consciously, moment to moment, on a path of love. Because love is where our true power is, and love is the essence of who we are. Which brings me to another amazing wisdom teaching that I live by, and this one is by the Dalai Lama. So I have spent many years as a devout Buddhist, and now I study all the great faiths because I am more interested in the golden thread of truth that runs through all traditions. And all traditions say that love is the power, love is the essence. The Dalai Lama spoke about the only true power we have is what we think, what we say, and what we do. So it is the control of our thoughts, our words, and our actions. And if we take that wisdom teaching and apply it to what path am I on, suffering or love, we realize that we have choice. Do we stay on the path of love where we have loving thoughts, loving words, and loving actions? If we step into our power in that way, then yes, we are living in a beautiful state of consciousness. Consciousness that expands. Love expands, suffering contracts. Have you guys ever heard of this story? I'm going to talk about an ancient story. It has been repackaged in so many ways, but it has a lovely teaching. So it goes something like this. Back in the old days in China, there was an old farmer. And this farmer, he had 4 horses that he loved. And these 4 horses he cared for very deeply. And one day, the 4 horses escaped from the small little corral, and they're gone. And the town residents came up to him and said, "Oh, I am so sorry to hear you lost your horses. That's such bad luck." And the farmer just looked at them and said, "Bad luck, good luck, it just is." And he carried on. 2 days later, his horses came back with all these wild horses, like 6 more wild horses in tow to make it 10 horses. And he was just like, wow, how wonderful. And the town residents came and said, oh, look at that, you have 10 horses. Your horses came back and you have 6 more, that's 10. You're so lucky. What good luck. And he turned to look at them and he said, good luck, bad luck, it just is. And so he, welcomed all these horses, and he was watching them and looking them and cleaning them and feeding them. And his son, his only son, decided he was going to help his father, and he mounted on one of the wild horses, and he was trying to break this horse in. And this horse bucked him off, and the son broke his leg, and all of the town residents came, oh, look, your son, he's got a broken leg, this is such bad luck. And the farmer said, bad luck, good luck, it just is. And then a few days later, the army came in, collecting all of the strong young men to recruit for the army. And they bypassed the farmer's son because he had a broken leg. And all of the other young men got taken away. And the townspeople came and said, your son, he got left behind. It's such good luck. And the farmer said, good luck, bad luck, it just is. So you can get the gist of the story. It will continue. It go on and on and on. But the moral of the story is, it just is. I love this story because when I go through chaos, I think to myself, I don't know. I don't know what the outcome will be of this chaos. And even though it feels horrible, why don't I come back to this neutral place, because it just is. I have a love-hate relationship with drama, and sometimes it takes a lot of work to come back into my heart and just say, it just is. It just is. During the COVID time, all of my wonderful practitioners I've been working with for 10 years handed in the resignation because they were uncertain about what was going to happen. And I was suddenly found myself alone with an extremely large rent and with not knowing what was going to happen. And I remembered the teaching, good luck, bad luck, it just is. And within a few months, I received these wonderful new practitioners who are turning out to be just extraordinary. And so I'm happy, and good luck, bad luck, it just is. And I can appreciate this present moment. Okay. There's so much more I want to. How are we doing for time? Okay, half an hour. Okay.
You're good. You can keep going. All good.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Dr. Mehta.
We do have a couple of questions, so whenever
we do. Wow. Okay.
But carry on. We can
okay.
share those a little bit later.
I just want to share the method to my madness. This is how I do a presentation, just so you know. I like to have everything organized and everything flows. So everything I'm sharing with you right now, there's a reason for it and it has a place. So now we're going to go into the second part of this presentation. Thank you so much that you're still here. The next part of my presentation, I'm going to share with you 4 tiny little stories. And then I'm going to show you how these 4 tiny little stories have helped me through some very challenging times in my life. And I want you to know something personal about me is this is the only thing that I care about in life. And because of that, everything I do is really about love. And this is about my love life. So enjoy the story. The first story is called Bump in the Road. When a few years ago, when I was living in North Vancouver, I was sharing a house with a wonderful friend. Her name is Ingrid, and she had this extremely long driveway, and it had all this little gravel, and you can always hear her when she came home because you can hear her car crunching on this gravel. And she had a little sports car, and when if she accelerated too much on her little sports car, she would literally little rocks would fly up and it would hit the fence and it would actually go over the fence into the neighbor's yard. And then when the neighbor would mow his lawn, the little rocks would chew away at the inside of his lawnmower, and you could hear him swearing. And then the little rocks would fly out of his lawnmower and hit our fence. So this went on all summer and every summer, and he kept complaining, and finally Ingrid said, okay, I'm going to pave the driveway. So Ingrid, she called a whole bunch of contractors, and she chose the cheapest one. And foreshadowing, not always a good idea. So on a Friday morning at 9 a.m., this big van shows up, and a whole bunch of these guys come out, and they look like they didn't sleep all night and look like they partied all night and didn't sleep, and they kind of rolled out of this van. And another van showed up, and it had one of those asphalt tar machine things, and you get the idea. And so they all just sort of stood around it, and I guess they're just getting it prepared. And Ingrid came out and said, how long will it take? And they said 2 hours. And she said, is that it? Just 2 hours? And they're like, yeah. She goes, that's all you need to prepare? And they're like, yeah, no problem. So she went into the house, and I kind of looked out the window, and I was wondering, what are they going to do? Are they going to just asphalt the whole gravel, or are they going to take away the gravel? Like, what are they going to do? Can you put asphalt on top of gravel? And so what they did was, that's all they did. There was no, they didn't put any pieces of wood on the side, to keep the asphalt in. They didn't do anything. They just dumped all of this asphalt all over the gravel, and then they left. And it was uneven. It was messy. It was all over the place. And I started laughing because I thought, well, there's nothing you can do now because it's already done. And so Ingrid comes out 2 hours later, and she says, oh my God, this is terrible. I'm like, yeah, it is. But there's nothing we could do because it was a cash job and it was done. And so about a week later, we noticed that there were these bubbles forming underneath like coming up. And I said, what is that bump in the road? And she's like, I don't know. She was looking at it, and she just took her shoe and she just stomped on it, and it went back down. And I thought, why is it bubbling? Why is there a bump in the road? Didn't make sense to me. And a couple days later, some more were popping up. And so Ingrid just, stepping on it. And I was thinking, why is the asphalt so soft? Like it's about that thick or that thick. And what are these bumps? And a couple days went by, and there was one bump right in the middle, and it wasn't Ingrid didn't touch it, and I was so curious, so I walked over and was just looking at it. You won't believe what I saw. I'm looking, and I'm looking, and I got down, and the little bump had come up, and there was like a little crack right in the middle of this bump, and it was a blade of grass. And I just sat there staring at it. I was like, a blade of grass just popped up 1.5 inches of asphalt? How is that possible? And I just sat there contemplating. I was looking at it with so much awe. I was thinking, can you imagine being that blade of grass? That blade of grass, knowing that its only purpose is to rise up towards the light. That's all it's doing. And it's just to be its radiant self as a blade of green grass. And all of a sudden, it's completely oppressed by this hot, heavy, oppressive asphalt. Can you imagine? And this little blade of grass, all it said was, I know there is light somewhere. And it kept going up and up. And Ingrid came along and squashed it with her shoe. And that blade of grass just kept saying, I know there is light there, and kept going up and up and up until it broke through. So, holy cow. So I called Ingrid, gotta check out this. Ingrid comes down. You know what she did? She went to squash it with her shoe, and I grabbed her and I said, you know what? Let's just appreciate the power of nature. Let's just appreciate this moment. So just so you know, it all had to be ripped out. The asphalt. Bump in the road. You will not believe how many times I thought about that blade of grass and its resilience, its perseverance, the inner knowing, and the gifts of nature. Remember that, because it's going to come up in a moment. So, if you don't know this about me, I've been married and divorced twice. I wear it like a badge. Not everyone gets an opportunity to do that. And I've learned so much being married and divorced. Would I get married again? Oh, yeah, of course. Of course. There's so much learning, so much learning. My first husband's is my first husband, now my ex-husband's name is Bob. Everybody loves Bob. If you met Bob, Bob would say, oh, what's your name? Alexina. Oh, nice to meet you, Alexina. What do you do, Alexina? I'm a doctor of naturopathic medicine. Oh, well, doesn't that sounds really interesting. What do you love about it? This is Bob. Bob can talk to anybody. Bob loves to golf, still does, and he really loves Guinness beer. And in comes me, little Kuan Yin, not a drinker, not a smoker, doesn't like golf, doesn't like hockey. I'm not quite sure how we got together, but sometimes opposites attract. So every evening, Bob would enjoy a nice pint of Guinness, and he would have it in one of those really nice kind of Guinness pint glasses, and he would drink it and he'd lay on the couch, and then he would just his coffee table would be exactly one arm length away, and he would just put it down there and continue watching hockey or golf or the news. And one day I was there, and well, we weren't married yet, actually, we were just dating, and I noticed this beetle was walking across the carpet, and I got freaked out a little bit, and I said, oh my God, Bob, there's a beetle. It's like this big, it's a beetle, can you take it outside? And Bob's like, hey, it'll be fine. It's just a beetle. And I said, can you take it? Can you take it outside? And so what do you think Bob did? The path of least resistance. He took his beer pint, and he took it, turned it upside down, and put it on top of the beetle. And he said, I will take care of it later. And I just kept staring at the beetle. Like, all I kept thinking is, it's got to go outside. It's got to go outside. And then before you know, I just left. So I went to sleep. I didn't leave. So the next morning I woke up and I walked into the living room, and as you can only imagine, the pint glass was still there. But I saw something incredible. I couldn't believe it. Can you imagine what I saw? If you can imagine that the coffee table is right here, and it was a low coffee table, and it had a couple of wooden panels here, so it was quite small, like this. The beetle was under the pint glass, and can you imagine what that beetle must have felt? There is this perceived obstacle that wasn't there before, and it was heavy. It was clear. It probably didn't even see it, but could feel it, and it was trapped. And what do you think that beetle was thinking? It was like, where did this come from? What do I do? This beetle moved this pint about this far till it hit the top, hit the coffee table. And when it hit the coffee table, the cup moved up a little bit and opened up a small spot for the beetle to leave. And I thought, how is that possible? How could a beetle move a pint glass across the carpet? But it did, and it escaped. And when Bob got up, I said, did you see this? He couldn't believe it. But when you think about how strong an ant is, it is amazing how strong a beetle could be. But what's the moral of the story? With the perceived obstacle, there is a way. If there's a will, there's a way. And this beetle did not give up. Its only intention was to move forward. Even though there is a perceived obstacle, all it did was move forward. And as it moved forward, it was able to escape. Escape somewhere in the house because we never found it. The story of that black beetle helped me through many, many times, because whenever I felt that I couldn't move through something, I just remembered, Mother Nature provides. And I thought about that beetle. I thought, if a beetle can do it, so can I. Tea break. The next little story that I use in my practice all the time, it's called Drop It. And this is about suffering. Did you know that sometimes when we are going through a difficult time, we get caught in our story? It's called looping and suffering. And when we're looping and suffering, it's like an addiction. We can resurrect emotions from the past, and sometimes they're painful. And we get so used to being in pain that we don't know any other way. And so a wonderful teaching is about the coal, the hot coal in the hand. Suffering is like holding on really tightly to a hot, burning coal, and it is painful. And all we have to do is open the hand and drop the coal. What to drop the coal? Because when you drop the coal, then you can observe your hand, and you can observe the wounds, and you can tend to the wounds, and you can take care of yourself. And then you can look down at the coal and observe the coal, which is the source of your suffering. And observe it from a distance where it's less painful. And you can learn from the changes that you make. We learn from love. We learn from love. So how do we change? What do we need to do so this isn't repetitive? So what most people do? They do this. It hurts so bad. I say, open the hand and drop the coal. You drop it and they go, oh yeah, 1 second. And they pick up the coal again and they hang on to it and you go, drop the coal. Right? 1 second. And they go and pick it up. This is the mind, the psyche. We do it all again. We grasp that coal. It hurts so much. We drop the coal. We pick it up again. So moral of the story is drop the coal. Don't pick it up. Just observe it. Make changes. Learn about the power of perseverance and your love. Reclaim your power. Because remember, the only control we have is what we think, what we say, and what we do. And in this moment, stop picking up the coal. tend to your wounds. Observe the root cause. Make changes. Let it heal. Tend. Tend. We have exactly 15 minutes, right, Dr. Mehta? I'm going to start on the last story.
You're good. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, in my opinion, some of the most challenging things we can go through in life is the courage to love another person, the risk and the courage it takes to open your heart and to allow someone to fully love you and for you to love yourself. And as all of us know, when we take risks, there is the risk of pain and the risk of rejection and the risk of what we think is the lack of love. And so when I reflect on what my legacy is, I would like to say that when I die, I want people to know how loud I laughed and that I took risks, and I will continue to take risks up until the last breath. So I want to share a story about love. My second marriage was to a fabulous man named Grant. And when I met Grant, he was much younger than me. And I went through a lot of reflection and fear about should I or shouldn't I? And what was presented to me was a man who was so present in his love. And he challenged me to reflect on my fear. And fear is suffering. And so he wore me down, and I chose to be courageous in loving. And boy, did I go through my stuff though. I mean, some of my personal stuff was coming up as like, I would think to myself, he'll probably leave me for a much younger woman, or I will never be able to keep up with him. I'm going to grow old faster than him. Just all the stuff that really is suffering. It's not love. And I chose to love. I chose to accept that right now, love was strong. I chose love. And so I married him. And it was a wonderful and difficult time, as marriages, as relationships are. And during this time, there was times where I felt so far away. We lived together, but I felt so far away. And it reminded me about that beetle and its perceived obstacles of the pint glass. I was the beetle in the pint glass. And I felt like I wasn't free. I felt like there was something that was blocking my heart. I felt like I was suffering and I didn't know what to do. And I created distractions from being able to truly love. And I carried on. And then I remembered that beetle had to keep moving forward in order to release the perceived obstacle. And that's exactly what I did. I just kept moving forward. And like that blade of grass, there were times where it was painful, where I felt not met in my heart. And it wasn't necessarily, the other person's fault. It was just really the perceived obstacles I created for me. I was on the path of suffering. I wasn't in the path of love. Loving means wholly loving yourself and wholly loving another person and wholly loving the divine. And I was so wrapped up in loving the other person, I forgot about myself. I wasn't tending to my wounds. I wasn't caring more deeply for me. And then one day, I had a memory. And the memory was about that divine self within. I've had so many mystical experiences where I was shown, I felt this divineness inside of myself, and the ego makes you forget. And I had forgotten that there is a beautiful and divine light within my heart, which is also within every one of you. I was so caught up in my suffering that I forgot who I was. And so I remembered that in my heart, if I just calm myself, there is a wisdom. So I reconnected with that wisdom, and I knew my marriage was falling apart. And I knew that it has run its course. And I knew that I had choice. And so the most loving and the most courageous thing to do was to recognize that love is not attachment. And so I confronted my husband and I said, "This isn't working, is it?" And he said, "No." And we had always had this agreement that it takes two people to make something work. So if one person's doing all the work, that person's going to get burnt out. And so thus became the path of true love, which is letting go. It was about me completely and utterly dropping the coal and not picking it up. And it was about me truly being loving in my thoughts, in my words, in my actions towards a man that, this beautiful soul, touched me so deeply in my heart. And that is never to be held on to, because love really needs to be let, to be observed like this with the open, soft hand. And I had work to do for me, was to observe my obstacles and observe my darkness so I can continue to be radiant in love. Separating from my marriage was one of the hardest things I ever did, because there's a perceived lie that love will never come again. And that's such a lie, isn't it? Because love is always there. As the years went by, I would hear about him and always spoke about him with love. Because love, again, is radiant. My tears are not from sadness. My tears are from the gift of love. Because through connecting with each other, we have an opportunity to see the depth of love, the infinite well of love that is within me and then within you. Healing is the remembrance of that love. It's not the remembrance of the suffering. It's not remembrance of the pain. Healing is about the triumph of the human spirit. And as these years, the past 5 years, I have taken my time to really remember me. And to what I mean by that is that divineness that sees through my eyes. My life is spent in service to others. That term, namaste, I see the God that dwells within your heart that also dwells in me. This is what I live by. My life is good luck, bad luck. It just is. My life has been rich with learning, rich with epiphanies and profoundness. And the thread to all of that is love. As a woman in her 50s, I love myself more now than I ever have because I feel like I've experienced personal wisdom. And wisdom is knowledge plus experience. That equals wisdom. Someone said to me, would you trade in youth for wisdom? I said, absolutely not. Wisdom, in my opinion, is what you take with you when you die. It's a expansion of consciousness. This is why we're here. We're here to learn. My legacy, again, laughter and the triumph of love. So as we wrap this up, I just want to say to you that after 5 years, I'm happier now than I've ever been in my life, and love is all around. And I am grateful to my 2 ex-husbands for helping me learn about love and my resilience of my personal soul that has moved through all these obstacles. And for those who are suffering, I offer you a huge heart hug, and I offer you space to share yourself. And my loving parting wisdom is drop the coal. Just drop the coal and reflect on your life and draw wisdom from things that you've seen, things that you've been through. Own it. Own your personal wisdom. Live your legacy. May all beings be happy. May all beings be joyful. May all beings be at peace.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tanya.
De nada, hermana. Estoy muy feliz.
Moving and inspiring as always, with a wonderful sense of humor.
Well, I didn't laugh out loud, but I do.
Yes.
But I do. Not today, but we have questions?
We have, yes, we have one question. So one question here is, you mentioned that the only power that we have is what we think, what we say, and what we do. How can we be more empowered in what we think and what we say and what we do? What do you recommend for this?
Oh, that's a good question. Thank you for that. Thank you, whoever asked that. It's a question I ask myself. So through my personal training, in my opinion, I think that stopping your speech is the first thing you should master. And it goes something like this. It's like there is loving speech, and then there is egoic speech, which is painful and suffering. For instance, the first thing I did is stop swearing. And the reason why I say this is, if you think about the origins of spirituality, the origins of the universe, their first was sound, Om, and from sound, vibration, and the vibration creates, it is the creation. So I say, first thing you do is observe your speech. Stop swearing, because swearing is a negative frequency. It's not a positive frequency, it's a negative frequency. When someone swears in front of me, it feels like I'm getting slapped in the face. So observe how you feel around others who are swearing. Once you actually stop swearing, you're going to notice other people swearing. And, refine the speech. Refine Second one, stop gossiping. Because when we start talking badly about someone else, energetically, it's like throwing darts at somebody. So if you throw darts at someone, guaranteed it's going to come back, because that's the law of karma. What goes out comes back, consequences. So refine the speech by don't stop swearing, stop gossiping, speak sweetly. You know, we have an opportunity to uplift somebody or tear them down, especially children, you know, and ourselves. Oh my gosh, ourselves. So be mindful. Be mindful of what is coming out of your mouth. Zip it. Zip it if it's bad. Zip it. Really, is the world better when we're, you know, verbally abusing someone? Is it ever good? It's, in my opinion, it's not. So this is very important. The second thing I think is observing what you're doing, right? Observing what you're doing. Observing, like if you are physically abusing, stop it. Stop it. Observe your body image. It's not body image. Oh, that's a Freudian slip there. Observe your bodily, what you're doing with your body, how you're presenting. Remain open. We can only control, when I'm talking about the 3 controls, the purpose of control your speech, your actions, and your thoughts. In what I'm saying about that is, in life, that's all the control we have. We cannot control another person. We cannot control an outcome. So we need to be the mastery of this. So when it comes to observing our actions or controlling our actions, body language speaks loudly, as well as this. If you're not speaking the terrible things, well, observe your body language as well. Because if you are in a defensive pattern or an aggressive pattern, people can feel it. So, you know, how do we come back to the center and remain calm? It's not easy. And if you are having difficulty, remove yourself so that you can create that calm. The last part, in my opinion, the most challenging, is the control over your thoughts. And so this is where meditation comes in, right? Meditation is not a luxury, it's a necessity. And I believe that there is no negative, there's no negatives about meditation. Meditation could be 3 minutes, 5 minutes, several hours, several days. But meditation is the necessary tool to first observe and understand what's happening here. And for those who do something like Vipassana, which is like complete observation, there'll be a point where you realize the insanity that's happening in thoughts. And so recognition of that insanity is, you will not let it go unless you realize how insane it is. And our thoughts is like a tape recorder, that's a negative tape recorder, is going on and on and on and on and on and on. That's like dropping the coal. You have to stop it and let it go. Let it go and stop it before you have mastery over it. So for those who are just starting out, first, you know, I lovingly challenge you to work with this. Work with the speech first. Speak lovingly. Speak sweetly. There's a beautiful teaching from Rumi about lovers. The reason why lovers whisper is because their hearts are so close and they are so here. And then when they're angry, if someone's angry, the reason why they're screaming is because energetically their hearts are close and they're so far apart. So, you know, when we have something sensitive to talk about with your beloved or a friend, it's like you can, as Lexi and I call it, speak sweetly from the heart. We say the heart of the Divine Mother, or from your heart. Speak sweetly, speak softly, observe the tone. The whole world would change if we just remember those, practice those as our personal mastery.
Thank you, Tanya. And the next question is, how do you deal with overwhelm from too many negative emotions affecting you at once?
Okay. The only control we have is what we think, what we say, when we do. If you're being overloaded here, don't laugh. K-pop is really quite good for this. Okay, music is vibration. Okay, if I was being overwhelmed with a lot of negative emotions all at once, you cannot just sit there in this moment if you're in chaos. Okay, so well, of course, I'm sorry, that is a choice. You can think about what you can do in the moment. I would put on some really fun music to get the movie going, get the body going. And from traditional Chinese perspective, your qi needs to move. Your qi needs to move so that you can get the energy moving. And then after that, you can come here, because the energy is too concentrated, and we call it in the mental realm, the mental and the emotional realm. You're more than this. Move the physical body to get the energy back here into the heart. And from there, we can calm. And from there, you can go into observation and reflection. The thing about the emotional states is this. If we are fearful about something, like anxiety ridden, most of the time, all the stuff we're worried about never happens, which is quite interesting. So if we have lots of negative things going on right now, we're probably in a state of anxiety, afraid. So what we need to do is move the physical body. Use music as a form of medicine, vibration, to help you get uplifted and move, come back into the heart here. From here, we can sweetly observe. Most of the things that we're thinking about are ego-driven. We're not on the path for love. Love can bring us back to here. Those negative emotional states are not helpful. So we have to come back to here. From here, from this place of observation, it's like the bird's eye view. We could take a look at the bigger picture. We have to deal with one thing at a time. Don't be afraid to ask for help. The divine is always there. I had this experience where I was going through chaos, and I asked God, I said, God, am I supposed to ask you to take away all of my pain? Or am I supposed to ask you for the resilience and the courage and the strength to deal with my own issues? And the answer that came back was either or. Either or. You can ask for help from a divine perspective, or you can ask for the strength to deal with them. Either or. Love, God is love, is the most powerful force. Go there.
Thank you. Next question. How do we find forgiveness more easily when we're hurting?
You have to see the bigger picture. I'll give you an example. You know the story about good luck, bad luck, it just is. We don't know the lesson that comes from these challenging times, right? If someone has betrayed you, now, first of all, understand that we will betray others and we will be betrayed. That's how it works. It's one of those foreshures in life. We will betray sometimes ignorantly, but someone else may feel betrayed by our actions. So if we're in a place where we're hurting and we're doing our best to forgive, we have to understand the bigger picture. Good luck, bad luck, it just is. What has happened to you, whether someone cheated on you, whether someone stole from you, whether someone is out to destroy your social media account, step back for a moment and say, we don't know the bigger picture here. So observe the bigger picture. From this experience, the learning comes from the resilience. The learning comes from how do you respond in the way you think, in your actions and your words. That will define you. Forgiveness, we call it rectification, is one of the gems of spirituality. Forgiveness means that I am, not just once, but a million times, I'm going to let go of the pain and suffering around an event to free me. Because the act of whatever it is that you are trying to forgive is unforgivable, but the person who did it, the soul of that being, is forgivable, because I believe there's karma being played out, there is an exchange here and an opportunity. So my soul forgives the other person's soul, but the action of that is not really forgivable. So you are forgiving that person. The action you're going to learn from. And again, the learning comes from your resilience. It's coming from your ability to remove that obstacle by your courage. You learn from your courage to forgive. You learn from the peace that you receive from forgiving. And forgiveness doesn't just happen once. You might have to reflect on that 1,000 times and forgive 1,000 times. But if we don't forgive that individual, guaranteed it's going to happen again. It's like attracting the same abusive boyfriend in your life, and you think, oh, I just keep attracting the same guy. Well, the common denominator is you. So learn and refine and choose differently, and keep choosing love here in all of its radiance. We're divine. You're divine.
Thank you, Dr. Tanya. Okay, everyone. Well, we hope you very much enjoyed this session. I know I did. It's always a pleasure to be in the presence of the lovely Dr. Tanya. And we're looking forward to more from her. Tomorrow night, we have a question and answer session with a group of speakers. And we'll have an opportunity to hear some more wisdom from Dr. Tanya and have an opportunity to interact with her there. You can also ask her questions through the Whova app. If you have more questions, feel free to reach out to her. Reach out to us if you've got any other questions related to the session. And we honor you all for being here. Thank you for your time and your attention. It's been a true pleasure. And we look forward to the upcoming sessions for the rest of the day. So there's lots to come. And we will see everybody very soon. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Tanya.
Thank you, Dr. Mehta. And thanks everyone who showed up. And remember, love is in your heart. Choose love. Drop the coal.
Choose love and drop the coal.